Andy and Jennifer, if you could mute. Mine's muted. How's that? That should be better.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Glenn Morris, and I am the chair of the Independent Redistricting Commission for the County of Santa Barbara. And my pleasure to welcome everyone and call to order our meeting of October the 6th, 2021. And let me just quickly, before we take roll, for those of you who are joining us remotely, remind you that if you would mute yourselves when you're not speaking.
Center.
How's that? Oh, microphone's not working. Usually I don't need one, but it helps for the remote. So again, just as a technical reminder for those that are on Zoom, if you'll mute yourself other than when you are actually speaking. And if you are desirous of having a Spanish language interpretation, we would point you to the bottom of the Zoom screen. There's an interpretation menu there, and you can select the Spanish channel, and our county staff will provide that translation for us live throughout the meeting. So we're thankful for their services as well. So with that, Ms. Tilton, could I invite you to get us started with a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Trotsky. There it goes. Present. Commissioner Twibell
Present.
and Commissioner McClintock. I believe we received word he was,
Yeah, Commissioner McClintock is out of the country today and is unable to join us.
okay. Vice Chair Turley,
Present.
Commissioner Bradley,
Present.
Commissioner Kasich, Commissioner Bray,
Present.
Commissioner Ochoa,
Present.
Commissioner Hartman,
Present.
Chair Morris.
Present. Thank you. So with the quorum present, we will proceed with our meeting. Before we begin with any of the agenda items, I did want to just take a moment and acknowledge the passing recently of Commissioner Adams, who was our at-large member of the commission. I had the opportunity yesterday to attend the memorial service that was held for her at Allen Hancock College, and it was a really well done service. There were lots of testimonials to her professional, but also community contributions and the impact that she had on many people in the 25 plus years that she taught at a community college in our community, and was a part of our neighborhoods. If it's without objection, I'd like to take just a moment of silence that everybody could remember Miss Adam in your own way. Thank you. For the members of the public, I would just point out that we will take public comment on agenda items as we come to those throughout the agenda, and we will hold general public comment on items not on the agenda until the end of our meeting. So we'll begin with point to two informational items on our agenda. One is the disclosure of ex parte communications on the part of commissioners. And for those who are interested in tracking where the commissioners have been and who they have had contact with, I would point you to the link on the main page of the commission's website at drawsantabarbaracounty.org. There is a link there to an online reporting form used by the commissioners to report those contacts. Also on that website is a link that allows you to share with us referrals for organizations in the community that you would like us to reach out to and try to connect with as part of our community outreach for this initiative. And if you'll leave that information there, our staff will make a follow-up in the next days. That takes us, commissioners, to the consent calendar portion of our agenda. Unless somebody has an item to pull, I would take a motion to approve items 3 and 4, which are the minutes of August 4th and August 12th, and the restated and amended bylaws of the commission. Mr. Bray. Okay. Do you want to pull that one and handle that separate? Okay. Well, then let's do that. You want to state your question? Like if the green light's on, we can
Okay,
hear you.
All right. Yes, is county council, is commission council with us?
Yes, Ms. Orden's available on
Okay.
the Zoom.
I
channel.
was just curious, because some of the language was changed from will to shall. And I'm not sure I know the difference between will and shall and why that language changed.
Okay. Ms. Orden, were you able to hear the question?
Yes, I was. And there were also some capitalization issues there as well, which I'm sure you noticed. It is just to be more consistent with the tradition for such a bylaw. And there isn't in common language, if it says will, it is probably going to be construed the same way as shall, but there is a lot of law that supports shall, and it means that it's mandatory.
So basically shall is mandatory
Yes.
as versus will is not.
Or it can be acted as if so, but the definitions are just in the law, just much better
Okay.
uniform. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or items on either of those? If not, I'd take a motion to accept items 3 and 4 on the consent calendar.
So moved.
A motion from Commissioner Bray, second from Commissioner Bradley. Ms. Tilton, could you take the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Trotsky. Aye. Commissioner Tribell,
Aye.
Commissioner Turley,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Kasich,
Aye.
Commissioner Bray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ochoa,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Chair Morris.
Aye. Those items pass. Can I just ask a quick favor, county staff? It may just be me, but could we turn the volume up for the speakers on the Zoom? So when they're speaking to us, they're a little soft. Thanks. Okay, let's move to our discussion items then. We'll start with item number 5, which is an update on the 2020 official census prisoner adjusted census data and a review of our existing supervisor district boundaries and how the population balance works itself out with our current map. And Ms. Tilton, I think you're going to get us started on that.
Yes. Pardon me, I'm trying to get my microphone where you can hear me. Before we get into the census, it's important to note that we have federal requirements and we also have state requirements. I'm just going to go over them now because they become relevant as we go throughout the discussion. But one of the things that is most relevant for this particular item is equal population. So the federal law requires that we have equal population in each of the districts, and that is every living person whether they are a baby, whether they are a US citizen, every living person in the county. So we did receive the numbers from the federal government on August 12th, giving us the total population count from the census. Then the state of California went to work to, as required by state law, to zero out all of the state prisons. And it's important to note they did zero out all the federal prisons as well, including, so that's relevant for Lompoc.
And just to clarify on that, the state prison numbers were reallocated
Correct.
to their community of record.
Mhm.
The federal prisoners were just zeroed out. Is that my understanding correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So that reallocation took place. The state released that number to us just after midnight on September 20th. So it was technically September 21st. As with any data that's used by NDC, we go through a verification process before we start using it. And we did find that there were some errors in the methodology used by the state, which affected, well, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of census blocks as far as the citizen voting age population. So we did call that to the state's attention. They came out a week later, the evening of September 27th, and gave revised numbers for those cases. So I share all that with you just to demonstrate how short of a time period we've actually had this data. And do know that when we get the data, it just comes in one big giant list of numbers that then we have to take and of course apply it to the geography of the county. So it's quite a process. So that is where we are with the federal law, and also with the federal laws when we draw districts. And I'm just going to review this now while we have the slide up. The federal law requires that we draw boundaries, that we don't draw boundaries in a way that would dilute the voting power of our protected class citizens. And also we can't draw boundaries just solely based on race. So instead we take into other considerations such as shared culture, shared language spoken at home, other shared socioeconomic factors when we're considering how we're drawing the boundaries. That leads us to the center column here, which are the state laws. The state laws, and you'll hear this often referred to as the Fair Maps Act. It's a law in the election code that requires that in priority, and also we have to combine this with the county's ordinance. So we have the county's ordinance that provides some guidance on how districts are drawn, and we have state law. So what you're seeing in the center column is kind of a combination of both. It's the ordinance that calls out the California Voting Rights Act. But then starting with the one that's listed as number 2 here, and it's certainly not considered the second, is the state considers the first priority that each of the districts be geographically contiguous, meaning that wherever possible, you have one solid single border. Of course, when you have islands, that's not going to be the case, but wherever, to the extent practicable, you would have one solid border for each of the districts, a single border for each of the single districts. The next is undivided neighborhoods and communities of interest. That is going to be the topic of the next subject, and we've spent most of these months focusing on those communities of interest, finding out what those neighborhoods are. The law requires that the communities of interest be kept in a single district if it serves to the benefit of that community for its effective and fair representation. Undivided cities and census designated places is another priority called out by the state. Easily identifiable boundaries, compactness, topography, geography, and cohesiveness. And then on the right are some other factors we can consider, just such as future population. But I should point out, and this is important, this will be relevant as we get into the discussion about the population, that when we're talking equal population, it doesn't have to be the exact number. We are allowed a 10% deviation, meaning that the difference between the least populated district and the greatest populated district can be no greater than 10%. So when you're talking about future growth, if you know a particular area is going to grow, you can slightly underpopulate it, but still remain within that 10% percentage, which is considered presumptively constitutional as far as equal population goes. So we don't want to go beyond that 10%. And then, of course, we always want to, wherever possible, minimize those number of voters who are planning to vote in 2022. We want to minimize those that are shifted from a 2022 election year to a 2024 election year. So here we have the numbers, and I want to just explain what you're seeing here. The top on the top line, we have each of these existing districts as they exist today. This is not to say that this will hold true and that the map will likely change or could change, but we do want to demonstrate how the existing districts lay out today. For total population for the county, we have 446,704 people. We're talking about, again, that deviation from the ideal. So, and recall I said you should have no greater than a 10% deviation between the least populated district and the greatest populated district. And so you're seeing right now, District 1 is underpopulated from the ideal. So by about 6.27%. And then when you look over to District 5, it's overpopulated by 4.9%. So the total deviation is 11.17%. This is important for some jurisdictions that want to adopt an existing map. You actually couldn't adopt the existing map because we are out of population balance. The next category is total population. Again, this is based on total people. So everyone that's counted in the US in the census. On the right-hand side of the column under total, that will give you your countywide figures. And so you see 47% Hispanic countywide for Santa Barbara County. You look at District 5, it's 77%. That's total people. This is how this chart is read. The last column is the citizen voting age population, and those are US citizens who are 18 years of age and older. It doesn't necessarily mean they are registered to vote, but they would be eligible to vote. This is an important category. This is the category that is looked at by the courts and by advocates when they're looking to see how well the maps have been drawn to help, whenever possible, to get a higher concentration of your protected class groups. So they will look at the citizen voting age population. We don't use it for determining equality in each of the districts, but it is certainly analyzed as you're looking at the various maps to see if there is any particular district that has a higher concentration of your citizen voting age population. In this case, the total citizen voting age population for our Hispanic district, and I want to take a moment and say that in terms of redistricting, the terms Hispanic and Latino are interchangeable. Okay, so the census question says, are you Hispanic or Latino? And you answer yes or no. As you can see, countywide is 30%, and the existing District 5 has 58%. So the existing does have a majority of Latino district. I do want to point out with every map that's submitted, we will be providing this same set of these data for every map that's submitted. We'll have a demographic summary. I have split it out, I think, over 4 slides, but what we'll show is just, it will be on one slide, one sheet, and it'll basically be page 2 of the maps. So every map that is submitted is professionally produced by NDC, so they are all treated equally. They are all professionally drawn up by NDC. Typically, we assign a number to the maps. We don't put names of who submitted on the maps. It'll be a number, and each will have the same demographic summary with this exact same information for each of the districts for that map. So it's often interesting, say you narrow it down and you have maybe your top 4, 5 maps, you can lay out those demographic summaries side by side, and you can see what the map submitter was looking for when they were drawing the maps as far as communities of interest by looking at these various categories. Not relevant to equality in population, but definitely often looked at when you're talking about communities of interest, that is the voting information. So on the top column is the total voter registration for November of 2020, and then below it is the voter turnout, and broken down by those particular the race and ethnicity. I want to point out that I just explained to you that in terms of redistricting, Latino and Hispanic are interchangeable, with the exception of this slide. The first two columns on the slide that you see, the Latino community is the Spanish surnamed is what's provided by the California statewide database using their surname list. The Census Bureau has come out with a percentage saying we believe it's an undercount of the Latino community. And so we've provided we've added that formula to that percentage. And so we will have, you can see the Latino estimate is an adjustment based on what the Census Bureau thinks the undercount is for the Spanish, based on Spanish surnamed only. So if you were using this chart, you would use one or the other, either the Latino estimate or the Spanish surnamed estimate. Other information that we provide is provided through the American Community Survey. American Community Survey is conducted by the Census Bureau. And this is, it's more detailed, provides us more detailed information than what the basic census, what the decennial census provides. It's pages and pages of questions. So it's a sampling of households that gives us more information, more detailed information. This particular information is really useful when you're looking to define communities of interest. For example, sometimes immigration status is important to find out where the concentration of immigration, naturalized or immigrants reside, language spoken at home, language fluency, also your age, if there's children at home. And continuing on, we provide information on household income. So you can see if there's one particular district that has perhaps a higher concentrated of lower income individuals. And then housing status is another category that's often looked at when you're looking at redistricting and defining communities of interest. That completes the demographic summary that we'll be providing. And again, all of this is based on the official California adjusted census data. And our next meeting, when we'll actually start talking about maps, is November 3rd. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Let me begin with the commissioners. Does anybody have any questions for still?
When you open the map, is that when the information will also show up when you open the map if you're viewing it? Let's say District R, you open up a map, it's going to show this information as well, or how do you find it?
What will happen is when the maps are produced, we'll be producing them in PDF format. So it'll be a 2-page PDF and they'll be listed on the website. As people have been drawing maps and submitting maps using District R, there is a way to click on the evaluation key and you can look at those percentages for your citizen voting age population by race and ethnicity. It doesn't have the other categories, but it does have, you're able to do that percentage calculation through District R. So if someone has shared a map to the gallery, you can click on that map. And once it comes up, click on the tab that says evaluation. And you can see how the districts are laid out as far as race and ethnicity for the citizen voting age population. I do want to point out that Doug Johnson is also on the call. If you have any questions for Dr. Johnson, he's happy to answer questions. And of course, we have Dr. Phillips, who is the wizard over here behind the scenes, and he can also answer any questions.
Mr. Bradley.
I'm curious about any pending developments that NDC or county staff would know about that might have any immediate near-term future impact on our numbers. Do we have any read or projections on large-scale developments in the county where there could be a sudden jump in population due to new developments? And If yes, how far in advance do we need to account for those in order to make our numbers accurate?
I would have to defer to the county to ask about impending developments or housing developments that could be taken into consideration. And I can see if there's someone available on the call now that may lead us to that answer. But before doing that, I do want to point out that the law requires us to use what is the official California database. So we're not allowed to make adjustments from that number that was given to us. But again, we can possibly underpopulate a couple of districts.
Good evening, Ms. Anderson. Thanks for joining us.
Chair Morris, good evening, commissioners. So in regard to knowing if there's development specifically in the county, we would have to check with our planning, and it's not something that we would have readily available. But we can look at that and find out.
Okay. Yeah, and then again, Mrs. Tilden, just to make sure I understand that what we can't adjust the numbers, we could take those into consideration for, within the deviation allowance. Is that's what
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chair Morris, if I may just add to that, this is Doug Johnson. And
Welcome, Doug. We're
sorry to
looking
be
around
late.
trying to find you on the screen here, but go ahead.
Sorry to be late. I just wanted to add, it's one of the remarkably clear pieces of law on this is that the courts thankfully said the only requirement is your census numbers be equal or close to it, as Ms. Tilton mentioned. The option to offset possible future growth is in that third tier of traditional principles that you can consider after you've met all the state and federal and county ordinance requirements. But it is an option that you can do it at your goals. There's no requirement that you do it, or that your districts be considered population balanced anything other than on April 1st, 2020.
Thank you. Commissioner Turley.
Yes, I had a quick question about this age data. So I know we have total citizen voting age data, but we also have this 0 through 19, which is a significant portion of most of these counties, anywhere between 20 and 34%. Is there any way to drill down further into that and get specifically maybe ages 10 through 19? Those would be voters who will be coming of age in the next 10 years.
Mr. Johnson, you want to take that one again?
Yeah, not really. Not in the American Community Survey. You have to drill down into other databases, and you end up comparing to some degree apples to oranges, unfortunately. So it's not totally impossible, but it's a big project and doesn't generate all that much for you, unfortunately, in terms of when you start comparing the different databases.
Right. Any other questions from commissioners? If not, let me pause here and we'll open it up for public comment on this item. Again, this is agenda item number 5. It's been an update on the 2020 release of the California prisoner adjusted census data and how that plays out in terms of our current supervisor districts. So let me begin with the online guests. No, Daniel, no one yet has raised their hand. And again, just let me make clear for those of you that are online, if you'd like to speak during this or any future public comment opportunity, if you use the raise hand feature that is on the screen there, that'll flag you for our staff and they can introduce you and turn your mic on for that comment. So Dr. Phillips, nope. Okay. Let me turn to those who are in the room. If you'd come to the podium, state your name and if you could just your district that you live in the current supervisors and share your comment.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. So my name is Lupe Alvarez, and first of all, I'd like to give my condolences to the Adams family. I heard great things about her at Hancock, and I'm sure she will be missed by many of her previous students and probably current students as well. So I just wanted to share with you, I'm in the 3rd district currently, and I don't believe a lot of people will or should stay in the 3rd district, but that's probably for general public comment or something. But Wanted to share that Guadalupe right now is building quite a bit of homes. We are in the middle of a 804 unit development, single family homes. It is only halfway built, not even maybe 350. And if you average 4 to 5 people per home, and they're selling very fast, and there's a waiting list of 200 people on the list right now. So I think that's not including some multifamily projects that are also going to be coming forward. So I think that should be considered going forward.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other comments related to item number 5? Not, I don't believe we're taking any action on this one, so we will move forward on to item number 6, which is going to be where I think we'll spend the bulk of our evening. So we're going to begin. This is an additional opportunity for the community to provide us with testimony related to communities of interest to help the commission understand the non-numeric factors that we should be considering as we begin in a few short weeks, actually evaluating maps and looking at the suggested new district lines. We're going to do this in a couple of steps. I'd like first to have our staff walk us through kind of a summary of the feedback that we have received so far to date, as well as kind of talk about some of the public outreach activity and efforts that the commission and our consulting teams have engaged in. Following that, we're going to ask the commissioners to just kind of share any additional input that you have either received in presentations you've given or conversations that you've been part of, correspondence that you may have received, and maybe any themes that are beginning to percolate up in your mind. Following that conversation with the commission, we will pause there for public input, and that will be a chance again for those of you who are joining us tonight to add additional testimony to the record so that we have as much public guidance as we can get before we turn our attention to evaluation of the maps and trying to apply your best guidance to those as well. So after the public testimony, we'll finish this item by giving the commission an opportunity to share some guidance, if you will, maybe some guardrails that we want to put in place for our team. That is, over the next several weeks, they're going to be taking the maps that have been received, organizing them, kind of grouping them into like groups, and bringing them back to begin the process of evaluation. And so as they do that process, if there's any guidance that we as a commission want them to keep in mind in that initial work, tonight will be a good opportunity for us to share that with them. So with that, Ms. Bill, let me turn back to you and ask you to do a report on what we've heard so far and how we've engaged the public to date in trying to gather that information.
Thank you, Chair Morris. And we're going to start with the recap of our outreach efforts to date. So I am going to introduce Jennifer Fitzgerald Cowan. She is director at Tripepi Smith. Tripepi Smith is the commission's communications firm. Then she will give a recap on the efforts for community outreach. And then I'll be, I think we'll flow better this way, that I'll give just a rundown of the comments that we received in writing and at some of the public hearings. And then that will segue into the commission discussing what they've heard on composition of districts. So if we could go ahead and have the PowerPoint up, I'll be running up from my end and want to turn it over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Ms. Tilton, so much. And Chair Morris, members of the commission. My name is Jennifer Fitzgerald. As Ms. Tilton said, I'm pleased to be joined by my colleague, Claire Burgess from Tripepi Smith, to give you an update on really some exciting things that have been going on throughout Santa Barbara County as a part of your Independent Redistricting Commission outreach efforts. Next slide. Let's see, we want to tell you about all the various ways that, along with all of the commissioners, we've been reaching out to the public. Various ways through workshop facilitation, social media, flyers and press releases, county e-blasts, many individual phone calls and emails, even an animated video in English, Spanish, and Mixteco that are on the Draw Santa Barbara website. Bilingual business cards for all the commissioners that you've been able to hand out in your communities. A recently launched, and I'll show you very successful paid media effort. The continuing communication hub of your effort, the website, and also a very recent successful earned media. So we'll start with social media on our Facebook page that we started for the commission. We, as you can see, have had over 52,000 people actually reached through this social media effort. We have boosted Facebook posts to increase our reach. For those of you who have seen changes in Facebook, then you understand that organically it's really difficult these days for public agencies, for public efforts to just organically reach the people that they're trying to. So we've worked with the commission in boosting various posts to increase our reach, and it's really worked. And almost 2,000 people have engaged with us through Facebook. We've been using Instagram as well and have had close to 100 content interactions, as you see there. The boosting of posts have increased your reach by over 600%, 655%. What's also been very helpful is that the County of Santa Barbara, who has established social media established social media channels, has reposted the things that we are putting on your social media channels. And that has exponentially increased our reach as well. We've also been working with you on workshops, traditional workshops, 3 in-person workshops, in fact, to get various parts of the community engaged, knowledgeable about what COIs, communities of interest, are, and how to draw maps. So those workshops have been in Goleta, Lompoc, and Solvang. And then we've been able to do 1 county-wide virtual workshop, again, to solicit as much community feedback on communities of interest as we can. I think this is, I think this really shows you the length to which the commission and your consultants are going to reach into communities that represent the diversity of Santa Barbara County. Over 200 phone calls our firm has made. We've followed up on those phone calls with over 150 emails. We have used the county's recent census outreach list, as it's said, as the slide shows, and all the commissioners have been so good at every meeting, and I know even tonight are also going to give hopefully feedback on additional community organizations that we can add to our outreach list and start communicating with on a regular basis. And then we also have done independent research online to find various community-based organizations throughout the County of Santa Barbara to ensure that absolutely everybody that we're able to contact knows about this effort and has the opportunity to participate. I should mention too, when we do those phone calls, we do have the ability to do those phone calls in Spanish. And so if that's required, then we have the capability to do that. I'm really excited to share with the community that we've been on the radio for the past few weeks throughout the county. We've engaged with 4 local radio stations, 3 of which are Spanish speaking, including Mixteco. You see them listed there. We have radio spots sending out the message of how crucial public engagement is through all of these radio stations. And we included as well the local NPR outlet, which is KCBX Public Radio. We're going to continue to run these spots to further our engagement through, right now it's planned through October 24th. YouTube is another way that we are increasing our outreach. We're running a paid YouTube advertisement and you can see what it looks like. So what happens on YouTube is when you log on to YouTube to see your favorite YouTubers, ads come on. And so you have the opportunity after the first 5 seconds to skip that ad or to view it in its entirety. And as you can see, this ad for redistricting in the county of Santa Barbara has appeared over 81,000 times on people's YouTube feeds. And 43,900 people have watched the video. What I think super exciting about this is the age of the people who are watching this ad and hopefully engaging with us, because Facebook, we know, attracts an older demographic, but YouTube attracts a decidedly younger demographic. And you can see here that the greatest reach we've had is with those 18 to 24-year-olds who are really difficult to reach and to get engaged on something like this. So we're super excited, and I hope you are too, that we've been able to reach that young demographic through YouTube. So our website is another exciting place where we can tell you that we can really track. I mean, the great thing about online engagement is that there are metrics for everything. So we can tell you how many users have visited your website, how many total sessions are accounted for through website views, which pages they're viewing, and how long they stay on our website. These next couple slides we included because we wanted you to see how the engagement has a marked increase since we've started advertising on radio and on YouTube. So you can see that between August 21st and September 12th, you can see what those top channels of outreach have been, how people have gone to our website. So under 50% before we started running radio ads, were going to our website directly. A majority of people were being basically directed to our website from Facebook or Instagram. But since we've started running these radio ads, more than 50% are going to our website directly. And the only way that happens is because they are getting the link to the website on radio. And when they get home, when they park their car, they're logging onto the website. So you can also see how many, how the percentage that are referred through Facebook and through YouTube. Those are our biggest social media channels that direct people to our website. And we're up to now 68% of referrals coming directly to the website. So we're excited about that. The county website and then NewsHawk, of course, also makes up another large chunk of how people find us. So this, again, really shows you pre-media, the paid media plan performance versus posting on social media alone. So the orange line shows you our engagement before the advertising on radio and on YouTube, and the blue line shows you how that has increased really pretty dramatically. These are the most popular pages that folks go to when they go to our website. And we're happy to see, it's logical, the homepage is going to be the top, the top draw. But the calendar being number 2 means that people want to know when you're meeting. They want to know when decisions are being made so that their engagement can be most effective. And then luckily draw a map. That page is number 3, and that's exactly what we want people to be doing. Drawing map, viewing the draft maps, and then finding out about all of you, the people who are really listening to them and making those final decisions. So we've been really pleased to see the viewership of these various pages in this order. So just last week and this week, news publications across Santa Barbara County have published an editorial authored by Chair Morris and Vice Chair Turley. And we've shown you a picture of the Business Times here and the Independent's running of this editorial that really stresses how crucial public engagement is to this process. In fact, as the headline states, and I know as you all believe, Santa Barbara County's redistricting hinges on folks' participation. These are some other successes we've had. You see the El Latino publication of your editorial. They posted it in English and they posted it in Spanish. And then the Santa Maria Times published the piece in all of the publications that they own as well. And we're continuing to pitch this story throughout Santa Barbara County to get as much coverage on it as possible. But we're really appreciative of Chair Morris and Vice Chair Turley's just their willingness to be out front and to author this editorial. And Commissioner Bray was instrumental in its development and in really working with us to get it across the finish line. So Commissioner Bray, we want to thank you for that. And now I'll open it up to questions.
Any questions from the commissioners for our friends at Ostrowski?
For people that have subscribed to the website, are we still being noticed? I don't recall getting a notification for this meeting.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I'll ask Claire to help me out with this one and just let everyone know who's getting a notice for the email subscriptions.
Yes, everyone who is subscribed to the website has been added to our email lists for any public emails that we send out, any notifications.
Thank you. And that was a wonderful presentation.
Commissioner Turley.
Yes, so comment first, question second. I was notified via the subscription list of this meeting last week. It came at around the same time as a city council meeting was announced. So those two things looked very similar in my inbox, but they were two different meeting notifications, including this one. So that's great, you guys. And then can we drill down a little bit more into the website visits per day? Just because I know for myself, whenever I'm giving a presentation, whenever I'm explaining things to people, I'm on the website, I'm on it right now. So how many of those clicks could possibly be commissioners going to the website? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a great question, Vice Chair Turley. Thank you. And one of the things that I didn't mention is that we've been, since we've started the radio advertising specifically, we've been logging many more first-time visitor visits to the website than we were in the past. We had been seeing quite a few revisits, repeat visitors, but with the paid radio going on, we've seen quite a few more unique visits. Claire, I can't remember off the top of my head if you have that exact information.
As of now, 85% of the visitors to the website are new visitors, 15% are returning visitors, and since beginning the paid advertisement, I believe it's about 70% is about new visitors.
Thanks,
That's
Claire. You're always
fantastic.
right on it. I love that.
Thanks. That's great news.
Any other questions for our friends at Troy Pepe Smith? All right. Ms. Tilton, back to you.
I believe there was a hand raised by Tom Woodrow.
Yeah, we'll finish the staff presentation and then we'll
Okay.
take some public comment. Absolutely.
And we are going to move on to the communities of interest now.
So I
I
think,
don't know if you want to make sure all the questions are answered for the outreach, or should we go ahead and move on to the?
we can pause here and just check if there are any public comments specifically about the outreach piece. So I see that there are a couple of hands raised that are online. Not sure whether they were specific to the outreach part of the staff report or probably more. My guess is they're getting in line for community of interest input, but it's all the same agenda item. Maybe if the three of you, Mr. Brandt, Mr. Woodrow, Ms. Price, if your comment is specific to the public outreach portion, if you could maybe just shoot a quick note also in the chat, we could pull you up right then. If your comment's really more about community of interest input, hang on and we'll come to that. Okay, Mr. Brandt, I see that you're wanting to speak to outreach. So Dr. Phillips, can you?
Good evening, Chair Morris and Commissioners. First, thank you for allowing me to speak. Before I give my comment, I just want to share my condolences to the family and friends and loved ones of Commissioner Kate Adams. You know, I didn't get to see her in action for a very long time on this commission, but for the time that I did, I was so impressed with her thoughtfulness and care and intelligent listening. So this is just such a huge loss for our community, and my thoughts and prayers are with her family. And as for my comment, I just want to express some frustration because you're being asked to give direction to staff on communities of interest. But just speaking for my community in Isla Vista, we've yet to be engaged in the process. And I'm hearing similar things from other unincorporated communities in the county. After the presentation tonight, I think it's clear that we're probably not alone. It looks like there's only 4 workshops that have occurred, and 3 of which were in person only. And I think these workshops are really valuable. I was able to attend one of them in Goleta. So respect to the communications firm, but I think the workshops are way, way more valuable. And, you know, I care about Isla Vista the most because that's where I live. I'll say that the workshop that I did attend, it was advertised as a 2nd district workshop in Goleta. I think there was also some confusion as far as that goes. And I did have folks too that were contacting me asking me, hey, where's the Zoom link for this workshop? And of course, I wasn't able to give it to them because there was no way to participate virtually. And that was just something that was really important to folks, especially because of the fact that, that workshop occurred over the summer during summer vacation for many families, and when UCSB and Santa Barbara City College were not in session. I also just want to say I was additionally frustrated when I saw after this, having not been engaged, that your executive director was making comments in a newspaper article about where he thinks Isla Vista should be placed. You know, we haven't even seen the census data yet. The public hasn't, at least. Maybe Mr. Johnson has. But I just don't understand where that's coming from. That's not his role to be the arbiter of what public input matters and what public input doesn't, especially when we haven't been engaged. So, I appreciate the work that all of the commissioners are doing, and I really want to give a special shout out to Commissioner Turley, because I know she is trying to organize a workshop in Isla Vista to try and engage folks in the process. But I just do not appreciate the harmful stereotypes and implicit biases that many of the comments that Mr. Johnson is basically saying he's referencing, are perpetuating. And I would just ask that, staff really pay respect to communities and let them speak for themselves rather than trying to put their thumb on the scale.
Sure.
If I can just briefly add something. I am going to be presenting to the Isla Vista Community Network on October 14th at noon. So if you would like to come to that meeting, please let me know and I will make sure you're invited.
Thank you. Let me turn to the audience that is here in the hearing room with us. Is there anybody that would like to speak to the public outreach component? If you'd please join us at the podium, state your name and your district. We'll take your comment.
Well, good evening, commissioners. My name is Frances Romero, and I currently reside in District 3. I had no intention of commenting on this item tonight. I'm here for the next item. But I think that after hearing about the community engagement efforts, I think that you also have another agenda item on your agenda tonight, number 7, that will tell whether or not engagement and representation are going to be consistent. I think that based on the population numbers that were shared today, that by my count, you should have about 3 to 4 commissioners that are of Hispanic or Latino demographic. So I hope that you really take that to heart. 3rd District, I live in Guadalupe, and I have proudly represented my community as its mayor. But I dare to say that that is a population that is not represented fairly or equally. So I hope that it's not just outreach and engagement, but that when people take the time to come and talk to you, that they see people like them at the dais. Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Denise Elamine, and I'm a resident of Solvang. I attended the last meeting that was held in Solvang. I am again stating, like she's saying, that it is not equitable. There are more white people and no brown people. And now you have this outreach program. Now you want to reach the brown people, and now you want us to be helping and everything, when we know that it's going to come down to the 11 white people to make a decision. So please don't make it look like you're outreaching us. You should have did this in the beginning.
Any additional comments on the public outreach component of the staff report? Well, we will turn back to Ms. Tilton to talk about to summarize the feedback that we have received to date.
Thank you, Chair Morris. And I do want to thank Tripepi Smith. I tell you, we work with other communication firms, we work with other jurisdictions, and they have just done a stellar job at working in this difficult time in the time of COVID, when it's difficult to have in-person meetings and hybrid meetings. And I have been personally very impressed, very impressed. We have been taking notes of the public comments that have been received. We have a lot of common themes that have been stated. What I want to do, and in the agenda packet that's available online, we have a listing of the comments we've been able to capture that have been submitted. And I do want to take a few minutes and actually just read just general summaries of those comments. It may seem lengthy. I contemplated picking out certain themes, but I didn't want to do anyone a disservice by missing their particular comment and being too overly broad. We had comments that Isla Vista must be separated from Santa Ynez. Another comment requesting that the existing District 3 boundaries be changed. Another hoping District 3 boundaries are changed as well. One that Santa Ynez and North County should be drawn in a rural district. Consideration given to sovereign land of coastal First Nation. Isla Vista and UC should be in District 2 for student and renter representation. And unincorporated South County County RE should be in Districts 1 and 3. Isla Vista UC should be added to District 2. Isla Vista UC is irrelevant to Solvang, Buellton, and northern towns. Oh, when I'm saying IV, that's Isla Vista, I'm sorry. Isla Vista skews District 3. One commenter, the Santa Barbara voters are overridden by UCSB students. They're requesting they should vote in their own hometowns. Isla Vista UCSB has nothing to do with Santa Ynez Valley towns. Smaller unincorporated and disconnected communities are served by special districts and should not be grouped with large a dominant city. The importance of a majority district. The Santa Ynez Valley is a community of interest with Buellton, Solvang, and Los Alamos. Isla Vista UCSB, student housing and private should be together. Lompoc and other census designated places to the north should be kept together as they shop together. Pardon me. Mesa Oaks is a wealthy neighborhood that is part of Mission Hills. Current district boundaries in Santa Barbara don't make sense and should follow major roads. Culture difference between mid and South County. Problematic relationships between Lompoc and Orcutt. Mission Canyon, very focused on fire prevention. Multiple communities of interest within district and party affiliation changes. Santa Maria should be grouped with Guadalupe to form a Hispanic majority district. Commonalities include agricultural economy, immigrant populations, ethnicity, commuting, and disparities. Guadalupe and Santa Maria in the same district, many similarities. Economic access, disparities in healthcare should be represented at the supervisor level. Need a Latino majority district linking Guadalupe and Santa Maria. Guadalupe shares so much more with Santa Maria than it does with the mid county cities. Santa Maria should be linked with Guadalupe and Cuyama. Need a Latino majority district linking Guadalupe, Santa Maria. Common communities of interest with much larger shares of immigrants, indigenous, farmers, and Spanish speakers. They share the same barriers to accessing justice. UCSB, Isla Vista to Goleta, District 2, the students shop there, commute there, live there. It's an important, they are put in an agriculture district. Need for, I'm sorry, I jumped my screen. Give me a second here. Need a Latino majority. Santa Maria and Guadalupe should be drawn in the same district. Santa Maria and Guadalupe, same district. Santa Maria, Guadalupe in the same district. Getting close to the end here. 3 more comments, same things. Santa Maria and Guadalupe in the same district. Another commenter, move UCSB IV to Goleta, District 2. Students shop there. Next comment, it's not logical for Santa Ynez to be linked. Sorry. My computer is not doing me any favors. Problem with being linked in an urban district. Should try to have districts roughly have equal number of voters. Don't just tinker with the districts, make a difference. Keep in mind the amount of territory given a supervisor. The amount of territory a supervisor must serve, so should draw similar districts of the same size. Isla Vista is more connected with and spends money in Goleta Valley. Guadalupe is underserved. District 3 has to shrink down, can take parts of it away from more distal areas. Doesn't make sense to exchange one transient population for another. Agriculture area doesn't have much commonalities with urban areas like Isla Vista. Since water resources will drive public policy decisions, there's a good argument for keeping the watershed of the Santa Ynez River together. And the last is a letter submitted on behalf of CAUSE to create a Latino supermajority district joining the western and northern bulk of Santa Maria with Guadalupe. Guadalupe and Santa Maria are connected by their heavily immigrant communities, agricultural economies, and environmental challenges. They have by far the highest shares of Latino and people of color population, agriculture workers, working class residents without high school or college degrees, residents speaking a language other than English, and immigrant and non-citizen residents of any city in the county. That's a summary of the comments that we received.
Thank you. So we're going to take some public comment and allow you all to add to this record, and then we'll turn to the commissioners to add what they've heard and to give some direction. I did want, just as we turn to that, sometimes I think semantics kind of can confuse the message. And in the public outreach report, it talked about 4 workshops or 3 workshops. I wanted to point out that the ordinance required the commission to hold 7 public hearings before we begin the consideration of any maps. Tonight is the 8th hearing that or public gathering that the commission has hosted, 4 of which were on Zoom or like tonight, hybrid. Is it enough? Probably not. But within the calendar that we have to work with, I think we've done certainly more than the ordinance required. And summer, the best time to do it? Again, probably not. But I also would point out that we have a mandated requirement that we submit our final map choice by a date certain in December, which didn't really allow us the opportunity to wait and extend the comment period or to wait until all of the data was available for everybody to, respond to those kinds of things. So we appreciate the feedback that we are getting. We would love to get more, and tonight's an opportunity for us to do that. The last 2 public comment times we've started online, so tonight this one will start in the room. So welcome back, Mr. Alvarez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, commissioners again. I think I want to clarify probably the most important thing that nobody's brought up when you talk about Guadalupe. All of our kids go to Rigetti High School in Orchid. All of our kids go to Orchid Academy in Orchid. All of our kids go to private schools in Orchid. All of our kids in Guadalupe end up going to Delta High School, which is a continuation school if you're not if you had issues at school or something. So that makes Guadalupe and Orchid a community of interest and has always been. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome back.
Hello there. Good evening, Chair Morris, commissioners, staff, members of the public. Francis Romero back again. Want to say that, first off, I was really tempted to do this on Zoom because it's just so much easier. But this matter is so incredibly important. I wanted to be in the room. I wanted to be able to look each and every one of you in the eye. This is important to me. It's important to my community in Guadalupe because this means this is what our life is going to be like for another 10 years. As I mentioned earlier, I've lived in Guadalupe since 1997. I've never moved, but I've lived in 3 districts. I started out in the fabulous 5th district with Tom Urbanski, moved into 4th district, and most recently 3rd district. And Guadalupe should not be bounced around every 10 years as it's convenient or whatever the reasoning is. I sit on the Bond Oversight Committee for the Guadalupe Union School District, and I am also chair of the Park Commission representing 3rd District. I've been around and I was the first woman mayor in Guadalupe. I care about what goes on in my community. I have to say that this process is more promising than the processes we've had in the past. And a big thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time out of your life to do it and for taking this commitment seriously. 3rd District, it's just too big and it's too diverse. It doesn't represent communities of interest. As Lupe stated, our kids are connected to the community of Orchid. Your high school years are when you make lifelong relationships. And Orchid, like Guadalupe, Guadalupe is not just a community of immigrants. It's a community of people who have lived in Guadalupe for decades, people who have deep family ties and roots in the community. So why wouldn't we let us be in 4th District where our kids develop those relationships that they have into adulthood with friends and activities? Also, Guadalupe Beach is beach access for North County, yet decisions are made out of 3rd district. All of the beach is controlled out of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd district. So it's time to give a bigger voice to the communities in North County, with Guadalupe being in 4th district. And I just want to say again, thank you for what you do. And I would love to have Board of Supervisor meetings where it's not a 3-2 anymore, whether it would be 3-2 in favor of North or 3-2 continued in the way our current voting configuration is. I would love to be surprised. I would love to know that things that matter to us in North County are thoughtfully considered and respected, the same as they should be in South County, and that everybody would have an equal voice rather than a lot of what we've had over the last 25 years. So thank you. What you do matters, and it's going to have a profound impact on everybody in this county.
Thank you.
And Chair, I believe it's 3 minutes per speaker. So I do have a timer and don't know how to run that one up there. So my apologies to the speakers if I have to interrupt.
If she starts waving her hands madly.
I'm under
wrap it
3
up.
minutes, I promise, which is saying a lot for me.
Yeah.
So my name is April Sargent. I'm the president of the Old Orchid Merchants Association. I'm also a longtime resident of Orchid. I own a home out just outside of Old Orchid. I have 2 of my 3 kids in the Orchid Union School District, and I'm a business owner here in the Santa Maria Valley, so my ties to the community are strong. We've seen and learned that there's a map proposal showing the split of the largest unincorporated area of Santa Barbara County, which is the town of Orchid. Orchid has a deep and rich history, and the people of Orchid are proud to be from there. Orchid has several long-term projects that are in play in regards to our community, like the trail that's connecting 101 to 1, which is the Orchid Creek Trail. And we would like to see those things come to fruition. And by the potential of breaking up the town into 2 districts, this could jeopardize some of those projects. Orchid is a very tight-knit community. Businesses, family, our school district, we all work together to keep the town thriving and moving forward. To split that town up into 2 districts would impact the community as a whole. The Orchid Community Plan shows Orchid as one area, and that was adopted by the Board of Supervisors. So to split that town into 2 would go against that plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. I'll make this quick. April pretty much said a lot of what I said. My name's Steve Strachan. I'm a business owner in Orchid. I own Central Coast Playgrounds. I also serve with Chair Romero on the Park Commission. I'm with April in the Orchid Merchants Association. I'm the president of the Old Orchid Revitalization Association, OTORA. I'm just here just to address concerns of the possibility of splitting the lines in Old Town Orchid and the importance of keeping it in one district. A lot of the projects we're working on now and also the Orchid Community Plan, it's imperative that they just stay in one area and not be divided into 2 areas. The possibility of dealing with 2 separate supervisory districts and the projects that I'm working on would be a hassle, to say the least. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Denise Elamine, and I just want to say this word, gerrymandering. I hope that everybody in here knows what that means, and it didn't start in the Brown community, or nor did my family start it. So I just want everybody to be cognizant of that word when you do your outreach, and then you get all of these people in, but the final decision will come down to the commissioner. It is not the people that you are outreaching to. I will not be able to pick a map. It will be you 12 commissioners. So when you do that, please remember the word gerrymandering. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Carol Greger, and I'm a longtime Orchid community member, 47 years to be exact. And I currently serve on the board for the Friends of the Orchid Library, and I'm an appointed member of the Santa Barbara County Library Advisory Committee. And this is, of course, District 4 with Supervisor Bob Nelson. My concern is the same as this lady over here that I really don't know. My concern is about the possibility of Orchid being split in some fashion. Everyone loves their community. We have a tight history. And yet I'm thinking about Francis Romero's come on. I wasn't even planning to say this, but I also feel that Guadalupe should be a part of Orchid. I worked as a district administrator in the school district there for 9 years. I held many, many parent meetings in Spanish. I speak both languages. And the number one thing parents kept telling me, we want our children to speak English. We want them to be fluent. We also had activities with between Guadalupe students in junior high and the Orchid junior high kids. And when the Orchid kids visited Guadalupe, their school library, they couldn't believe it. They said, you guys really have a school library out here? I mean, so we started having activities, bringing these kids together at Rigetti in the summer before they entered high school. It makes sense to me to do that. At the same time, it makes sense not to split Orchid. We are trying desperately to get a permanent, larger library for Orchid. It's in the works. We're moving forward for that community, and we want to have a unified voice. We don't want, there's too much division in this country. Please keep us unified as you look at these maps. And thank you for the work that you are doing. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a lady that was here right now. She left. She was trying to get on Zoom. She wants to speak. She's from Guadalupe. I don't know if people allowed her to go, but I told them. Up to you.
Yeah, let me go through the group that we've got here and then we'll come back. So let me turn to our community members who are on Zoom with us. And Dr. Phillips, are you going to introduce them and play doorkeeper?
Yes. So the first hand raise is Laura Price.
Good evening, Ms. Price. And as we've asked the speakers here in the room, if you could tell us what district you live in as well.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. First of all, I just want to say that I am new to all of this and I'm a horrible public speaker, so just bear with me. My name is Laura Price. I live in the Cuyama Valley. I have for the last 17 years. I live, work, and most importantly, am raising my 3 children in the Cuyama Valley. And while today I'm representing myself and my family, I'm very active and involved in my community. The current district lines are a bit confusing to me. Cuyama is currently in District 1, which is approximately 2 hours away from my residence. In all honesty, Cuyama is not a stone's throw to any other district, as we are out in the middle of nowhere. But we have no direct path or travel route to any other part of our current district. District 5, North County, seems like a much better fit for our community for a few reasons. Location, these are the areas that a good part of Cuyama goes for doctor's appointments, shopping, and etc. And North County is a much better match as far as lifestyle and culture. The handful of times that I have been to District 1 locations or dealt with people from those areas, it's pretty evident that they don't have a clear idea of our way of life or our needs. I just think it's important that we're represented by somebody who understands our lifestyle. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I ask a clarifying question for Laura?
Yes, Commissioner Curley.
Okay. Laura, can you let us know which road you usually take to get out of the valley?
We may have lost her there.
Oh, no, I'm here.
There you
Sorry. You would think after a year of distance learning, I'd have the Zoom down, but I do not. 166 is our main route. Unless you are going into like Ojai, Ventura, those areas, you can go 166 to 33. But 166 into Santa Maria is the most traveled route.
Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Who's next?
Our next speaker is Thomas Woodrow.
Good evening, Mr. Woodrow.
Good evening, Chair Morris and Commissioners. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. First of all, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name, as I said, is Tom Woodrow. I'm Chair of the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association, but also I am a resident of District 3. I live in Buellton with my wife Maureen and our 4 kids. We have triplet 13-year-olds and an 11-year-old, and we've lived here about 11 years. I have a lot of experience in county politics and policy. If you go back, I worked for Supervisor Firestone. I worked for Supervisor Chamberlain. I did a little work for Rep. Gallagly. So public policy is near and dear to my heart. And mostly I've all done that not as a partisan, but as a community servant, as somebody who's attended to constituent affairs and is pretty familiar with the whole county, but more specifically with the needs of the 3rd District. I was a student in Isla Vista. I have to tell you, I lived down there for 7 years. I did undergraduate and graduate school at UCSB. I'm a proud gaucho. So I have a long history here. I love this county. I love living here. And I'm really pleased that the commission is taking on this challenge to set up districts that make sense. Along those lines, if I first could comment on communities of interest, I would say that Isla Vista definitely belongs in South County has more in common with places like Santa Barbara City College. Once again, I was a student there. I didn't even know the other parts of the district or of the county really when I lived in Isla Vista. And it's not because I was ignorant or students are, it's just because they're focused on school and doing well in their community. And so I think there's not so much in common with people who are in agriculture or construction or other industries or tourism throughout the county. And certainly I think that means that they tie really, really well with a 2nd District placement. And once that piece of the puzzle is in place, I think some of the other ones fall in place. And to echo what some of the other speakers said, I think Orchid absolutely is a great community. We go from Buellton up to Orchid as a family and we love it there. It's a really neat community. Absolutely needs to stay whole. I know that's part of your charge. I think Guadalupe is the same. Guadalupe is a special place. It's got a really unique character. Obviously, it shouldn't be split up. And I think there's something to say for taking those 2 areas and putting them together, keeping them maybe in District 4. And that being said, if I take it one step further, I think District 5 really needs to be a North County district, its own, kind of its own place, a truly kind of Santa Maria focused district, District 5. I think it needs to be very disparate from the others so that these are distinct. So once again, I think, living here right in the middle of Santa Barbara County, really caring about public policy as a public servant. Right now I'm volunteering as a head of Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association. So we represent all 450,000 members of our county here, residents, because we all pay taxes. And really, really think those decisions at the Board of Supervisors are going to be well served by having thoughtful, balanced lines drawn here. I know you are all really doing a great job volunteering your time and taking public input. And for that, I'm grateful. On behalf of Santa Barbara County taxpayers, I'm grateful. On behalf of the Woodrow family, I'm grateful. So thanks again for what you're doing, and carry on.
Thank you, sir. Who's next, Dr. Phillips?
Our next speaker is Robert Mercado.
Good evening, Mr. Mercado. If you could unmute, Mr. Mercado. He may have stepped away from his microphone. Let's move to another and we can come back to him in just a moment.
All right, our next speaker is Lee Heller.
Dr. Heller, good evening.
Commissioner Morris, good to see you and the rest of you. I hope you are all well. I wanted to make a more abstract point that I've made in the past. The point is to keep communities of interest together, but it is not to create districts consisting of only a single community of interest. That's just not possible. We would have, I don't know, 15 or 20 different districts if we were doing that. The reality is that any given supervisorial district is going to have multiple communities of interest in it. For example, I lived in the first district for 18 years in Little Summerland, which had very little in common with big wealthy Montecito next door, working class Carpinteria as well. That's just the nature of the beast. I'm in the second district now, which also has incredible diversity, from middle class neighborhoods to wealthy Hope Ranch to working class and Hispanic communities. So it's not going to be possible to create a supervisorial district that's only consists of one interest group. We're going to have to share districts and find a way to do so and get along as best we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Spencer Brandt.
Good evening, Mr. Brandt.
Good evening, Chair Morris and Commissioners, and thank you for allowing me another opportunity to speak. I'm a resident of District 3 and the community of Isla Vista, and much like speakers from the Orchid Merchants Association, I'm very concerned about maps that have been submitted that propose splitting Isla Vista and UCSB into different districts for the same types of reasons that the speakers from Orchid mentioned as well. And I just want to call attention to, I have submitted a of interest map that includes all of Isla Vista, including surrounding UCSB dorms, student housing, and family housing. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Dr. Phillips, is Mr. Mercado back? Did we want to try him one more time?
Yes.
Looks like he just raised his hand again. Could we try that once more?
Yeah.
Mr. Mercado, are you with us?
Yes, I am this time.
Welcome. Thank you for being
Sorry
patient with
about
us
that.
on the
I did
technology.
walk away at the right moment.
Good evening.
Good evening. It was a pleasure meeting you all last time. I'm sorry to hear about Commissioner Adams. Thoughts and prayers go out to her family, of course. I have been listening to all the comments today about representation. I've been watching and being involved with all of you, of course, and I am still advocating for Tom to be on the commission. I got the chance to meet him. He's a wonderful person, and I hope that you do consider him to be on the board, of course. And I would also like to continue to advocate. There's the difference between the people who wear sandals in this county and the people who wear boots, and I hear that a lot on the comments, that people need to be respectful about where we draw the lines and realize what supervisory lines would affect to other people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that comment. And the comments we've heard from everybody. Mr. Alvarez, do you still have your lady, your friend there on the phone? Let's try this. I don't know how well we'll be able to hear, but we'll give it a shot.
Okay, you'll be on right now. Hang on. Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, can they hear me okay?
We can, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, yes, good evening, supervisors and commissioners. My name is Anna Marie Santillan Machad. I'm a longtime resident here in Guadalupe. I am now the city treasurer, and I have served 12 years on the Guadalupe School District here in Guadalupe. District number 3.
Yes, I am.
Isla Vista, San Ynez, Bilton. Our community has nothing in common with these
I
cities.
am not prepared for you guys.
Put in
being
District
here.
4,
I got
where
laundry on
Ernesto Getty
here.
High School is located. This is the high school our young adults attend, and so that would be really the district that we should be in, so that we can be represented here. The citizens of Guadalupe. So I do thank you for your time and for hearing me. I appreciate it. Stay safe and healthy. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alvarez, thanks for the technology hand. you know, I think that's the world we're living in now. We'll do however we can get connected to people, right? Whatever works. Dr. Phillips, do we have any further comments from folks online on this item?
Not at this time.
Okay, very good. Anybody else in the audience in the room that would like to speak to this item before we close public comment on this item? Okay, very well. We're going to close the public comment for this item. And I'm going to bring this back to the commission now. And commissioners, what I'd like to do first is just kind of work our way through the group, and I'll give each of us the chance to share either themes that you think you're hearing, or more importantly, if there is additional feedback that you've gathered through your own outreach efforts that maybe isn't reflected in the record yet, a chance to kind of, you know, bring that forward. So I can start on one end and work my way around, or somebody can volunteer. How about we start with Commissioner Bray?
Thank you. Wait,
You're most welcome,
put the-
sir. Absolutely.
Yeah, spotlight on me. I only just have one thought or comment, and my perception from the written and the public testimony I have heard, and I think I'm right about this, it's been mostly from North County, Guadalupe, Santa Maria, or the San Ynez Valley. And this may go to the point that Mr. Brandt was making earlier. I just haven't heard a lot from Santa Barbara. What is their communities of interest? Other than Mr. Brandt, I've not heard a lot from Isla Vista. And how do they see their communities of interest as well? And maybe I'm wrong, but my perception of what I've seen and read, I've just not seen it. It'd be, I think, helpful. And again, maybe this is going to Mr. Brandt's point of outreach. I'm not sure, but that's my thoughts right now.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Twyvell?
Yes, you know, I have tried to reach out to a lot of different communities in the county, not just District 1, but Cheryl and I did do a presentation for the Montecito Association. There was an article written. I met with the mayor in Guadalupe and the city administrator because I wanted to understand how people felt in different communities. My parents had lived in Solvang for 25 years. So I did have a meeting with, it's called the Village Collection, but it's a homeowners association, and got information about how they felt. And it is the theme that we do see in the comments. It's mainly District 3. You know, that is the issue. And most of the comments were Guadalupe wants to be in one part, and other people want Isla Vista to be in with District 2. And we did meet with somebody from District 2 who felt that they would welcome Isla Vista into District 2 because it combined with City College. Isla Vista does use a lot of the Goleta, you know, their restaurants and just the community itself. And I did also write an article for a property management group that reached out to a lot of landlords to see if there was any comment about in that area. And it also is true that Isla Vista, you know, they're having a housing shortage. It reaches out into Goleta. So once again, I think the comments are Isla Vista and Goleta should be together. So District 3 is our, I think, our main focus. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hartman?
In talking to people, excuse me, one of the issues that one of our speakers actually brought up was that one of our greatest resources in this county is our coastline, and that resource should be shared, well, not equally, but each district should have access to that for a number of reasons. Besides tourism and that sort of thing, there's coastal commission sort of repercussions and things of that nature. And it really does kind of make sense. So it's one of the things that we are known for. Other themes, there is a very clear agricultural theme in North County. That is, there is frustration. There's long-standing frustration. I think Ms. Romero mentioned it, 3-2, historically has been kind of the way that I've heard of that a lot as well. Not that those things play into what we are wind up doing, but it is something that is definitely felt noticeably by residents here in the North County.
Well, thank you. Mr. Trotsky.
Thank you. There were several themes that I heard throughout my interaction with residents of the county. And one being that people are definitely looking for a greater voice in North County. They just don't feel like they have a voice. And people want a representative who understands their lifestyle. Another theme was to keep towns and communities together. And I thought it was interesting. It came up a few times to use the 101 freeway as a boundary line. For instance, again, I would say the overwhelming comments were regarding District 3 and the placement of UCSB and Isla Vista in District 3 and grouping it with Guadalupe and Central and Santa Ynez and Lompoc. And and that's where I heard the comment to use the 101 freeway as a dividing line for Goleta. And so that Isla Vista, UCSB, Old Town would be in the same community of interest with the Santa Barbara City College and other renters. I mean, it was a compelling, it was compelling. And I thought that was really interesting. And, but a lot in the North County is a pretty cohesive, they have cohesive communities, which is what we've heard here, Guadalupe, Orcutt. When we were for the hearing in Lompoc, we heard that Lompoc doesn't want to be in two different districts. It wants to be in one district. Yeah, I think that would be, everything, a good synopsis of what I heard. Thank you.
Mr. Kasich.
Being within, this is a repeat of a lot of things that have been said, but being within District 3, the meetings that I've had, conversations I've had have really come down to where people have some very specific comments and ideas of the communities of interest and how it should be formed. Not everybody's been the same, and obviously I was careful not to interject my thoughts, just to have them do it. Publish a map, get it out there. But what was interesting was that everybody came to the same conclusion, which is, I understand what areas we want to put together, but the population then is so far off. So if we only had communities of interest, we could they could create this, and this, but the difficulty will be, how do you now equalize those populations per the rules? One of the things that was brought up, I'll throw it out there, or was asked of me is, do we have to have 5? Could we change the number of district supervisors and therefore increase something like that? I said I'd pass it along, and that's it. And the only thing I did was, the last part was, with everybody that I met with, I absolutely said, great ideas, but you have to publish them out. Please.
I love that. Thank you for doing
that's all.
that. Commissioner Ochoa.
I think a lot of what I've heard has already been said. Specifically, the people I've spoken to are mostly from Lompoc, and the division of Lompoc and Vandenberg Air Force Base and separating Lompoc from both of its primary beach access points at Surf Beach, where there's the train, and at Halama doesn't make any sense. same with the agriculture surrounding Lompoc that a lot of people are employed in are in 2 separate districts, both 3 and 4, depending on whether you're in, the wine growing section or the other things growing section. And so it comes down to District 3 it's too big. It's a swath that separates so many communities, and we just please draw the maps and give us something to look at because we want to change it. At least I do.
Thank you. Commissioner Bradley.
With the passing of Commissioner Adams and also reminder that we needed to prepare some comments. I actually wrote my comments this evening, so I'm going to read my comments. First of all, I want to thank the staff and the members of the public who've been attending these meetings, these commissioner public hearings, and providing so much input through and using the various demographic tools if you've gone to the workshops. The process is obviously not yet finished, but we are fast approaching the October 18th deadline when all draft map proposals must be submitted. So I want to strongly encourage the public, if you've started on but not yet finished a draft map, to proceed with completing that and submitting it to the commission before that deadline. A strong example of what I'm talking about is the document in tonight's packet submitted by CAUSE, which provided map communities of interest, demographic data, and evidence-based commentary. If you haven't seen that and you're wondering how to proceed, that might be a useful template. It's just so complete, and I want to thank them for submitting that. Your comments and suggestions are going to have the greatest impact if they're joined with an actual draft map that accounts for communities of interest and that divide our county into 5 equally populated districts. The law requires that. So please use the tools available through SBCO's website and get the maps drawn. Now, a couple of patterns emerge, and I wanted to comment on those. These are based on the comments I've heard since I've been sitting in hearings and also reading the written comments. It's obvious from numerous written and spoken comments that many county residents want to see a consolidation of Latinx communities of interest encompassed within the general areas of Santa Maria, Guadalupe, and Coyama Valley. Also, this needs to recognize the longstanding connections with Guadalupe and Orchid, as we've heard this evening. They do not want to see the interests of Latinx residents divided among 2 or 3 separate districts without strong representation on the County Board of Supervisors. And to me, this makes total sense. But again, we need to find the boundaries that both satisfy that goal and add up to the necessary numbers to give us 5 districts with equal populations. So I give you my word that I'll do my part to see this objective is achieved as best as possible. Secondly, there have been numerous complaints regarding the past historic inclusion of Isla Vista in areas with large resident student populations within District 3. And to anyone who's lived in Santa Barbara County for any extended length of time, you'll know this has been argued about and debated for decades. It remains one of the hottest political hot potatoes here. I think I speak for everyone when I say we've heard your voices loud and clear. However, I want to remind everyone that communities of interest are ill-defined by saying only what they are not or whom to exclude, and especially without any due attention to that all-important requirement to form districts with roughly equal populations. We're trying to define your district by telling us what you're not or whom to exclude from your district is a bit like telling someone how to get to your house by writing down all the streets not to turn onto. It's a lot simpler and far more effective to define your district in affirmative terms of which communities of interest you feel are part of and where they join. To members of the public who see the exclusion of Ivy and other heavily student populated districts from District 3 as a high priority, I say again to you, please draw and submit your proposed map before that deadline, including all 5 districts, and make sure the numbers balance between the districts. This isn't whimsy, this is what the law requires. Other than venting one's demagogic spleen, a singular complaint about whom to exclude without any proposed map is not going to give you what you want. Draw a map and make the numbers work. That's going to conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair Turley. Let's see if we can get you on the
Thank
screen
you.
as well.
Wow, how do I follow that, Norman? That was fantastic. I just want to validate everybody else's comments. I think this has been incredibly helpful for me, just hearing more from people in districts 4, 5, as well as obviously districts 3, 1, and 2. And I'm super interested in the idea of the 101 freeway as a boundary line. Also, this idea about each district having access to the coast is an interesting one. Yeah, so that's generally been my perception of things. I'm also really wanted to repeat both what Commissioners Bradley and Kasich said, which is that, I'm taking a look at the numbers, and this is going to be the biggest problem for us, is that if we include Orchid, Santa Maria, and Guadalupe in one district, that's almost 150,000 people. So obviously that magic number is 89,300 or so. So what I would really, really love to hear from people in North County is how could we fairly divide up that population and still account for communities of interest? So also to give you some idea, Lompoc and Vandenberg Air Force Base in the coast is around 62,000 right now. Just IV is about 44,000. So keep in mind these population totals, go on to District R, take a look at that, because that's going to be our biggest issue going forward.
Yeah, thank you. And again, let me, as I share some of my thoughts, let me just again reiterate, we really do need and appreciate the feedback from folks. As I've had opportunity to share with folks about this process, I've pointed out there are a lot of different ways that you can take our 454,000 residents and divide them into 5 equal buckets, right? Not all of them are going to be the way we want them. And so as we try to do that, right, our legal requirement is, as has been pointed out, is 5 districts of as close to the same number of people as we can get them. There are a lot of different ways to get there, and so what we really need is input, like we've received this evening, and that we've received in the 7 hearings previous to this, that tell us how to put a lens on the different kinds of approaches to get to 5 equal-sized districts. As I think about the themes that I have heard, many of them I think we've talked about. District 3 clearly needs some attention. There's a lot of dissatisfaction, and I share your point about it's helpful to hear what they want. And I think we've heard some of that, but we've probably heard what they don't want as well. And that's really come from both ends of that, long serpentine-shaped district that exists today. I think it's important that we recognize that, the reality, I believe, and we'll hear more about this in our next meeting in terms of the need to create or really preserve a Hispanic majority opportunity district in the county. We have one district today that meets that test. We're going to need to preserve that at a minimum. And so we need to figure out how we do that and where is the best way to make that a reality. And then I think the third theme that I have heard over and over from folks is the desire that we chop up our cities and large unincorporated communities into multiple pieces only when there's no other choice, right? That we minimize to the absolute extent possible the division of cities. That's not going to be possible everywhere because there are other requirements, and in the case of Santa Maria, for instance, the population of the city of Santa Maria is 109,000 according to the latest census. The district's going to be 89,000. There's 11 or 12,000 people in that city that can't stay in the same district as the other. And then you add to the complexity if you want to attach pieces of Orchid or all of Orchid or Guadalupe or Cuyama, those numbers get bigger. And so it's going to be more than one district that the city of Santa Maria sits within. And so how do we do that? City of Santa Barbara on the other end of the county, I think their numbers are going to be really, really close to the size of a district. That gives them an opportunity potentially to say we want to be our own district and let the rest of South County, be in a separate district or not, right? But I think we need to hear that over the next coming days and weeks. I would really encourage folks. Tonight is the last formal hearing where we're gathering information, but it's not your last opportunity to share perspective and input into the community of interest lens that we'll be using. I would encourage folks to use the email address, the redistricting at sbcounty.org. It's on the website. Don't trust me to remember it. It's on the website. Use the form on the website, use the email address, share with us what you want your community and your district, and I think to Norm's point, share with what you want it to include, right? Give us that affirmative description. And to Commissioner Bray's point, I would particularly put a plea out to folks that are in the 1st and 2nd district, particularly I think the city of Santa Barbara. Tell us what you want to do, right? Tell us how that should look. Same thing with the city of Santa Maria. I don't know that we've really heard directly. We've heard from a lot of people that want to be with Santa Maria, but Santa Maria hasn't told us yet, which where do we draw the lines, knowing that they're going to have to be represented by at least 2 supervisors. So please, if you're listening or people who've got an opinion on this matter, there's another couple of weeks here, right? Our next meeting will be on the 3rd of November. And we're going to shift gears at that point. From that point, what we'll do is consider maps, right? We won't be talking about theory or just kind of, ideas, but we're going to put maps up, right? That have been submitted by the public and organized by our staff so that we can have a way to evaluate those. And we'll begin to narrow them down, right? Initially, we'll take a look at which ones, are equal population and which ones meet kind of the legal requirements. That will narrow it some. But then we really need to put that lens on it that you all are going to help us build and start to figure out which looks closer. And we'll have opportunity as we do that for folks to then comment on, that universe of maps. And then we'll narrow it down. And we're going to do this 6 or 7 times over the course of November and early December. To the point earlier about summer's not a great time to do it. November and December are not our favorite time to do this. People are busy. We get it. But the point, the reality is there's a date fixed in December by which we have to choose a map. So we're going to need you to join with us, find a way to carve into one of those 7 meetings and help us to narrow and narrow. I think we'll do a lot of, I think Dr. Johnson called it accordioning, right? We'll start with a number, we'll maybe whittle it down. Maybe it'll grow again a little bit because we'll combine some maps. And we're going to do that 3, 4, 5, 6 times until we ultimately get down to, a couple of maps that then ultimately the 11 commissioners are going to have to, make a choice on, right? So please continue to engage. Please continue to comment. And please, I think you've heard it from a couple of folks here. October 18th, get those maps in. The commissioners have all committed. We're not going to submit maps. We're going to evaluate and help guide the community through a process of narrowing it down to a map. So what that means is it's up to you all to get us maps to look at, right? So thank you for that. This has been very helpful. I've made many notes. I've seen other commissioners do that as well. We really do appreciate the feedback. With the permission of the commission, before we move to item number 7, I think we'll take a 5-minute comfort break. We'll be back in just a moment, everyone.
During the break, if anyone is interested in a quick demo at District Garage, we'll have to show you.
Recording stopped. progress.
Before we move on, Dr. Johnson, are you back with us?
Yes, just
There
having
you
trouble
go.
hitting the mute button.
Dr. Johnson, I was asked a question that I believe you can answer, and that is the map drawing tools that are on the website today are still using a pre-official estimated data. Is that correct?
Yes, as of right
And
now.
when is it that you expect them to have the real data?
The data actually is going over tonight to the host services. So it's just a matter of how long it takes them to do it. And we just don't know at this point. It might be a day, it might be a week or so. It's all a matter of just how overwhelmed they are at this point.
And can you give us a kind of a quick sense of how far off is the estimate from the actual, if people are drawing a map now using the estimated data, is it really going to be that far off once you replace it with the new data?
There are some definite differences. I don't know the scale of it, but we've been referring to it as any map submitted will need some fine tuning. So if people have the time to fine tune their maps once the new data goes live, that'd be great. If not, of course, the commission can take that map, take the ideas that it reflects, and do the fine tuning on our end too. I don't know. Dr. Phillips may actually know better than I if he's looked at the difference, but I haven't specifically looked at the differences between the two yet.
Okay. All right. We will move on to agenda item number 7, which is the direction on filling the vacancy caused by the passing of Commissioner Adams. Ms. Orden, are you with us?
I am indeed. Thank you.
Good evening. So I think at this point, we all are well-versed in the requirements for being a member of the commission and what the conditions are that we ought to consider in making that choice. What I think would be helpful is if you could just briefly kind of walk the commission through what the alternatives are. What are our options at this point in terms of making an appointment or not? What are our options?
And Chair, I do have Ms. Orden's PowerPoint if she is choosing to use that.
For the record, it may be important, but maybe we'll just talk for a moment and then put it up. Obviously, this is the first. I too want to give my respects to that family and to say how sad I was for the death. She was clearly a vital, strong member of our commission and, of course, within your community. Under the circumstances, as late as we are in this endeavor, there is in your bylaws as amended, you want to replace a commissioner whenever and as soon as practical when you can. But there is nothing that says that this commission cannot operate with the numbers that you have today. You have been working together in a collegial way. It is a group that's working well together. The bylaws and the ordinance require 7 votes for anything of any magnitude. Now it requires it for anything you do. So you could continue to work without doing anything. The next alternative, and I think the one that, even though we've done it often, is probably preferred by most of the commissioners, is to replace the vacancy. And then the question is, how do you do that? We do have, as we've already talked about, we don't have another meeting until November the 3rd. We know from our agenda that we have at least 2 persons that are interested in serving. The ordinance and the bylaws uses the very same language of how the commissioners go about choosing a replacement commissioner if a vacancy occurs. And that language is that if any vacancy occurs on the commission by reason of the death, removal, or resignation of any commissioner, the remaining members of the commission shall select a replacement commissioner from the pool of the most qualified applicants previously selected by the county elections officer, using, again, the same criteria that we have already talked about so often that's set out in section 4H3. And it also says, to the extent practical, the replacement commissioner shall be selected to maintain the balance of district representation and political affiliations that existed prior to the vacancy. And of course, we all remember, and we've talked at great length about those criteria that are in 4H3 regarding racial, ethnic, geographic, age, and gender diversity. So you are all very, very familiar with those criteria. And so in our view, as lawyers, the pool for the replacement commissioner is the pool that was previously selected by the county elections officer. So the question arose, well, what about Commissioner Janet Rios, former commissioner? If she were available and she were to apply, would she qualify as being in that pool? And in our view, the way the language is written, since she is indeed in the pool of the most qualified applicants previously selected by the county elections officer. So she, according to what we see in both the ordinance and in the bylaws, she is, as would any other commissioner that was in there, be someone who would be available.
Thank you. And I would just, I think it's obvious, but just to make it clear, Commissioner Adams was seated in the at-large seat. So, the pool is, everybody that was in the pool originally that's not in the room today, right? That would be our universe of potential candidates. So did you need to go through the PowerPoint slides as well, or did
I don't think so.
you can just add those to the minutes?
You just add them to the minutes, I think.
Okay. Very good.
Unless any commissioner wishes to look at it right there.
So I think what would be probably most helpful at this point would be to turn to our public and take any public comment we have, and then we can bring it back to the commission to, provide some direction. I don't believe we are prepared this evening to formally make an appointment. I don't think we have anybody here from the county to do, clerk's office to do a swearing in. I also, on a personal note, think that out of respect to Commissioner Adam, we ought to give not tonight, right? So I think the goal tonight would be to determine what we're going to do, and then we'll decide when we're going to do that after this evening. So, but anyway, that's where I'm at. We started in the room last time. We'll start online this time. And it looks like we've got some folks that have raised their hands. So Dr. Phillips, you want to play doorkeeper again?
Certainly. So our first speaker is Gerardo Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mr. Gonzalez.
Buenas noches, ¿me escuchan?
Could you hold one moment? Let me make a quick announcement. For those that are online and would like to hear a translated version of Mr. Gonzalez's remarks, if you choose the interpretation button at the bottom and choose the English channel, the staff interpreter will be providing that service. So with that, Mr. Gonzalez, please go ahead.
Buenas noches. Quiero empezar diciendo que lamento escuchar lo sucedido a la doctora Kate Adams. Le mando oraciones a su familia y a sus seres queridos. ¿Sí me escuchan?
Please.
Oh, ok. Gracias. Segundo, quiero decir que, pues, oh, gracias. Segundo, quiero decir que estoy decepcionado porque esta comisión no tiene a más latinos con las experiencias iguales a nosotros los campesinos. Necesitan en la comisión a alguien que pueda relacionar con nosotros y que nos conozca. Y ahora es una buena oportunidad para elegir a alguien con esas experiencias. Tom Martínez. Tom Martínez. Tom Martínez es uno de nosotros. Trabajó en los campos y creció al lado de personas como yo. A veces siento que el condado se olvida de nosotros y no debe ser así. Para Tom, el éxito a lo largo del condado de Santa Bárbara y de todos los residentes que llamen esta región su casa es lo único que importa. Espero que Tom entre a esta comisión. Muchísimas gracias y que pasen buenas noches.
Good evening.
Chair, I do want to point out that those listening on Zoom were able to hear the translation. I don't know if you want someone to summarize
Sure.
for us.
Yeah, I
and-
think that would be helpful for those that were in the room and were not able to hear the translation. If we could get,
Yeah, I wonder if Dr. Johnson could just summarize generally what the color was saying for us. Or I don't believe we're able to bring the interpreter over. Daniel, could you clarify? So we had an interpreter in Zoom.
right, but it's
Yeah.
challenging to bring them back and forth because
Mhm.
we want to keep him there so we don't lose him. Mr. Alvarez, jump in and be our
Great.
tech help again.
Thank you.
So the gentleman, Mr. Gerardo Ramos, was in support of Tom Martinez. Mr. Martinez is one like them, worked in the fields originally, and that sometimes people in the fields feel like they're not represented and that he should be on the commission.
Thank you.
That's paraphrasing there.
Thank you. And we won't even make you lose your spot in line.
No, actually, since I'm here, I was an applicant. I am on the final poll. I am eligible. I support Tom Martinez as well. So, and only because he actually was raised in Guadalupe as well. And I know he's very civic minded. He's on the hospital board. And I don't know, he does a lot of volunteer stuff. So I'm behind Tom Martinez 100%.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Dr. Phillips, who's next?
Our next speaker is Juan Garcia.
Good evening, Mr. Garcia.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
We can, sir. Thank you.
All right. I was just gonna start off with saying there should be more Latinos in the Restricting Commission, and I believe there is no better person to serve this independent Restricting Commission than Tom Martinez. He embodies the spirit of the North County and the community in which he has dedicated both his life and career. I hope you make the right choice and choose Tom Martinez. And that is it.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Gerardo Bunuelos.
Good evening, Mr. Bunuelos.
Hello, good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me?
We can, sir.
Hi, this is Gerardo Bunuelos, and I'm a registered voter in County District 1. And I just want to express my support for Mr. Tom Martinez. He is a steward in the community. He's a veteran, and I can't think of someone better to represent us on this commission. I would point out that, as was showed earlier in the study, around 40% of our voting public is Hispanic. And I believe we truly need our district here to better represent that population. And therefore, I would again reiterate my full support of Mr. Tom Martinez. And thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Lee Heller.
Dr. Heller, you're getting a little slow on the button.
I'm
welcome
sorry.
back.
I'm sorry, Chair Morris. I need to be hovering over my computer every minute of this entire evening. As you know, I am also your legal watchdog, and we are in a great position tonight because Janet Rios is available and she ticks all the boxes that we need to fill this spot. She's young, something we have really lacked. She's Latinx, which we have been very short on, and she's highly qualified, and she's a Democrat. And as you know, party parity is essential to filling these spots. That's written into the ordinance. So I just don't see any alternative to Janet. If she were not available, that would be something else. But given that she is, this is a great opportunity, not to mention the fact that she served admirably before she resigned, playing some really important roles, including occasionally as translator. I'm deeply, deeply sorry about Commissioner Adams' death. I so enjoyed her. When she quoted Bartleby the Scrivener, it made my night. But she needs to be replaced by someone with the same party identification. So to me, the solution to this is clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is Lata Murti.
Dr. Murty, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Chair Morris and Commissioners. I would like to make public comment in support of reappointing Janet Rios to the Commission to fill the vacancy resulting from the tragic loss of Dr. Kate Adams. My sincere condolences to her family. I believe the greatest challenge this commission has faced from the beginning is complying with the ordinance that it be as representative as possible of county demographics and political party affiliations. Tonight, however, complying with the ordinance is not as challenging as it has been in the past because there is the opportunity to reappoint Janet Rios, who represents our county's young demographic, its Latinx population, and someone who is affiliated with the Democratic Party, the same party that Commissioner Adams represented. Also, Janet Rios's past experience on the commission makes her well suited for the at-large position because she can draw upon that prior experience to make decisions that benefit the county as a whole and not just the district in which she resides. Janet was an asset to the commission when she served as a representative of the 5th District, particularly in the area of multilingual outreach, and I have no doubt that she would once again be a valuable member of the commission were she reappointed to fill the at-large vacancy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair Morris, I'm hearing some question as to Janet Rios, because on the agenda, unless you've read the agenda packet, it wasn't clear that she has a change of circumstance and still continues to reside.
Oh, sure.
Reside in the district where she was formerly from. She resigned because she anticipated moving out of the county, and that circumstance has changed, so she's remained in the county.
Thank you for that clarification. Dr. Phillips, who's next?
Next, we have Maria Aldesoa.
Ms. Aldecoa, welcome. Are you there? Looks like you're muted at the moment. Let, oh,
Sí, buenas noches. ¿Me escucha?
good evening.
Ok, muy bien. Buenas noches. Yo pienso que según las ordenanzas de la comisión necesita representación latina.
I wondered if we could ask our tech people
Y
if they
como
could
una comisión independiente, ¿Perdón? Ok. Y como una comisión independiente, la representación étnica y regional debe pasar más por la política partidista. Esta es la voluntad de los votantes y hasta este punto parece que la comisión está ignorando ese deseo y voto de los pueblos del condado. Me reitero al apoyo de Tom Martínez. Él es el que falta a esta comisión. Por favor, a toda la gente latina les pido que tomen la decisión correcta y escojan a Tom Martínez.
Mr. Alvarez, can we press you into service one more time?
Sorry about that. I wasn't actually paying 100% attention, but she supports Tom Martinez 100%.
And Chair Morris, I'm wondering if our the technical folks here in the chamber are able to switch the public feed to the English channel. And then it's my understanding that our interpreter would be able to translate.
We would be hearing the translation?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm getting a head shake in the back. Okay, we're waiting for a reply. So if that's possible, we'll make that happen. But let's move on. Dr. Phillips?
Next speaker is Alison Yamas.
Good evening, ma'am. Are
Good
you with
evening.
us? There you go.
Hi, how are you?
Well, good evening.
Hi, I want to start off by saying it's really unfortunate that Dr. Kate Adams is no longer here with us. But as the spot in the commission has become vacant, there is now a good opportunity to add another Latino to the commission, as we are underrepresented. I believe Tom Martinez is the best qualified candidate for the vacancy, as he was born and raised in Santa Maria and cares about the county of Santa Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kairos Solis.
Ms. Solis, good evening.
But I also wanted to express support for Janet Rios. Like other people have said, she is young, Latina. She's also from District 5, like Dr. Adams was, and it seemed like she was most similar in thought process to Dr. Adams, which is also something that you should all be considering in replacing her. Also forgot to mention at the beginning, I am here representing only myself, not any organizations with this comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Joe Pierre.
Good evening, Mr. Pierre.
Good evening, Chair Morris and fellow commissioners. I want to take a minute also give my condolences to the Adams family if they're listening or if they will get a copy of this. It was with great sadness when I woke up that Saturday morning and my phone was blowing up with the information, the news of her passing. But there is one clear choice here. You know, I don't have anything personally against Tom Martinez. but Janice Rios is the clear choice. She just simply checks more boxes and will keep the commission in balance with, what its charter says it needs to do. We don't want to take this, which hopefully is the last replacement commissioner, and throw the commission into an unbalanced situation. So simply welcoming Janet Rios back onto the commission is a very clear choice. So please appoint Janet Rios to fill Dr. Adams' position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last hand is Gail Teton Landis.
Ms. Teton Landis, welcome.
Thank you very much for the welcome. First, I would like to extend my condolences on the loss of Kate Adams. In her brief time on the commission, she brought wit, intelligence, and passion to the table. And I'm sure you and her family will sorely be missing her. I urge you to reappoint Janet Rios. She was doing a wonderful job as a commissioner, and I enjoyed her rapid Spanish translation as well. I think replacing a woman Democrat with another woman Democrat who is a Latina makes sense, and I think we are all fortunate that she is available. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the folks that are online that wanted to make comments. Let me turn to the folks in the room. Sir, if you'll step forward.
Good evening, Commissioner and Morris and commissioners. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Cliff Solomon. I live in District 4. I am a supporter and member of cause, and I'm here to support the reappointment of Janet Rios to the Redistricting Commission. First, though, I would like to public state how sad I am to lose a friend and colleague in Kate Adams. She was leaving a big hole in my life and in the Santa Maria community. As I just said, I would like to support the reappointment of Janet Rios. Janet is a lifelong resident of Santa Maria and is young and will bring fresh ideas to the redistricting process. More importantly, because she previously served on the commission, she has the experience needed because we have to work quickly to fill Kate's position. Because as you well know, the first set of maps are due October 18th. I applaud the strong support the commission has shown to former Commissioner Janet Rios and fully support her reinstatement to the commission, factoring in that reinstating her fills racial, ethnic, geographic, and age diversity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Morris, Commissioners. LaWanda Lyons Pruitt, representing the Santa Maria Lompoc branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. You know us as the NAACP, and I am president. I live in the 5th District, and I want to begin by applauding you, the commission, for the work you all have done, demonstrating a commitment to creating a final commission that's truly reflective of the diversity of our county, Santa Barbara County. Secondly, I would like to acknowledge the tragic and untimely death and loss of Commissioner Kate Adams. She was a personal friend, and her death she was a huge asset to the community, thoughtful, caring, and well-balanced. Her unfortunate death truly creates a huge void on the Redistricting Commission and also in the city of Santa Maria and Santa Barbara County. We applaud the strong support that we believe the commission showed when you appointed former Commissioner Janet Rios, and we fully support her reappointment to the commission. We're factoring in that if you reappoint her, she fills and maintains the balance that Commissioner Adams had, racial, ethnic, geographic, and age diversity. In addition, having previously served on the commission, She's still a resident of Santa Barbara County. We believe that we are in the point in the process where we need someone who is familiar with redistricting and can hit the ground running. Thank you again for your time and your commitment to creating a representative community. And I applaud you. I really do. And I wouldn't want your job.
Thank you.
Denise Ellerine. And I think that Janet Rios would be a great appointment. We could right some wrongs unless there is a more qualified Black person in the pool. But I'm sure he was kicked out in the first round. I just think that we should try to bring on a little diversity, maybe one or two. It won't be enough, but it will be better than zero. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Nelda Martin, and I live in Los Alamos, District 3. And I'm here to say a few words in support of Tom Martinez. He was born and raised here. He's got boots on the ground, a business owner, very community-minded. He's been on a number of boards and commissions. He's ready to go. And he would be a wonderful voice for the citizens of this area. And I support the idea that you would bring him on to replace someone that I didn't know, but I wish I did. I know she's missed greatly, but I think Tom would be a wonderful replacement, and he would definitely be a voice for the people here in District 3 and all of Santa Barbara County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Gowing. I'm in the 5th District, and I'm here in support of Tom Martinez. And I have to say, I think it's pretty pathetic that you guys would consider bringing somebody back that quit to go take another job. So all of a sudden now she's available to come back onto this committee. And you've got a fine, upstanding citizen right here. He's an architect. I'm sure the mapping is probably right up his alley. And he's been in the agricultural field for his, he was raised in that field with his family. And he's been on so many different boards, and he's worked with almost every county agency that there is. So I don't think you could find a better candidate than Tom Martinez, and he fits the Hispanic requirement that's needed. But to take a quitter, I mean, what's to stop her from quitting a week from now or 2 weeks from now? I mean, anyway, that's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Jim Byrne, I'm in the 4th District, and I do want to give my condolences to Miss Adams and her family for the untimely and tragic death. I applaud you, everybody on the commission, for your time and your dedication to this very important activity. What you guys will be producing, you folks, will be dictating a lot in this county for the next 10 years. So again, it's not an enviable position to be in. And I want to thank you for that from the get-go. I'm here to support someone. I have no idea of his political affiliation. I know him because he's an upstanding member in the community. I've done fundraisers with him. I work with him sometimes. I know he's a very ethical, hardworking, driven person with a wonderful personality, a man of integrity. And that would be the gentleman behind me, Mr. Tom Martinez. One thing that concerns me is sitting here watching this, the political wranglings that are going on right now with the all of a sudden importance of bringing someone back onto the Redistricting Commission board who left on her own accord. And now this person has to be a Democrat to fill that role. I thought this commission was based on independent thinkers and not being politicized. That's the way we should keep it. Someone with integrity, knows the community, fills a checkbox that we're all looking for. We need to stand by someone with integrity who's lived here all his life and only wants prosperity and the health of its citizenry. And I think Mr. Martinez is the choice for that. And I stand by that. And again, thank you for all your hard work. Not enviable, but we're behind you on your decision one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like we had one more hand raised on the online, so we'll take that and then I'll come. So Mr. Dr. Phillips, you want to bring then the last comment from the online group?
We have Jesus Velasco.
Mr. Velasco, good evening. You are muted still, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
We can now.
Thank you about that. Sorry about that. First time using this in a while. I just want to say, also echo the comments about, I'm really sorry to hear also about Dr. Kate Adams passing. I hope her family gets past these tough times. I'd also like to make a comment about Rios. Just like many others, she left her job, her commission here. And what's to stop her from doing that again and leaving the commission in the last 2 most critical months? Let's appoint someone with a track record of commitment to this community, which is Tom Martinez. Lastly, I also want to say, you hear a lot of comments from individuals here who support Rios, but it's the typical political show where, like Sacramento, where they're just special interest groups that have an agenda. Why don't you commission start listening to the actual community members? It's not about diversity and balance. You can see it. I mean, for goodness sake, this, for example, causa. I mean, you see how much division they created in the community. Let's not do what other nearby counties have done when in this process and politicize this whole process. Do what's actually right for the community and listen to the community members. So I believe we should support Tom Martinez. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Martinez, just one quick moment. We'll let you speak, but I think just in fairness, Ms. Rios, I'm just going to give you a heads up that if you'd like to make a comment as well, we'll hear from both candidates.
My condolences to Ms. Adams' family. That is tragic, and it's tragic for the commission, more so the family, but I understand the predicament you're in. I'm humbled by the support. Some of the speakers that we've heard, I'm talking about the communities of interest, because that's the biggest thing that the commission is going to have to deal with. And it's, as several of you commissioners have mentioned, it's going to be impossible to have each community of interest be completely isolated. We can't create 7 or 9 districts. That's not going to work. So the function of the commission, the job before the commission, is to negotiate a agreeable redistricting. It's not going to please everybody. You've got to find a happy middle ground. I think the nature of my business for 40 years, being an architect, dealing with cities and counties and all the different districts, has given me a great opportunity to, I guess I want to say, wear both hats. I represent a client. I represent dealing with a client who wants one extreme thing, and dealing with a county or the city that wants something completely at the opposite end. I have to switch hats and try to bring them together. My job is for my client, but at some point you've got to convince the client that the way to make this work is compromise. And that's what you have before you. I'd love to be a part of it. I think I've got a lot of experience in working out compromises. I'd love the opportunity to help serve my community. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Phillips. Ms. Rios, can you hear us?
Yes, can you all hear me?
We can. Good evening.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. Good evening to the commissioners and to the public. I am here to, as many have said, unfortunately, things happened to my family, just like many of us were impacted by the pandemic. So I chose to stay, and I had a change of mind. And had this never happened, I myself was impacted by case tests, and that was something that hit me hard. It's just, she's an educator, I'm an educator. I saw her in the community often, and talking about academia, we definitely hit it off on that note. And so hearing about her death really hit me, and I really hope I have the opportunity to continue the work. It's the work that she would want us all to continue. And you know, as someone that grew up in Santa Maria, born and raised in Santa Maria, parents of immigrants who followed the seasons, eventually settled in Guadalupe and in Santa Maria to raise a family. You know, I remember my dad, you know, in La Lechuga, en La Uva, everything. And so I just want to continue the work. I may not have grown up in the field myself, but I have seen and I understand a certain piece of that experience. And I hope that you will allow me to continue this work today. In my line of work as an educator, I work with different types of people, you know, white, Black, Latinx, various, you know, political parties. I work in San Luis Obispo. So it's definitely something I deal with on the daily. And my goal is to support the individual, find their needs, listen to their needs, and listen to the communities of interest, something I was doing prior to leaving, something I understand I need to focus on their needs. That is literally my goal, to address a person's needs. And I hope that I continue doing that on the commission. You know, unfortunately, Kate Adams passed away, and I wish it wasn't under this circumstance, but I want to continue the work. And I hope you will trust that I will finish the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to close public comment on this item and bring it back to the commissioners. Again, commissioners, I think our task before us right now is to determine a path forward and set us, you know, up for making a decision at our next opportunity when we can talk about when that might be, whether it's on the 3rd of November or at a special meeting that we could call for that particular purpose. So who wants to go first? Mr. Kasich.
I think because of the time, the short time frame that with respect to Ms. Adams, I fully support the idea of not doing that tonight. But I think that given the fact that October 18th really is right around the corner, we cannot wait till the next set meeting. So I would vote for whatever people feel is appropriate to do a special meeting to put somebody on and conduct the vote.
Okay. Thank you. And look, just Commissioner Bray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think we can wait any longer. I mean, I'm really concerned that we're going to start going down this path very quickly. And I really support Commissioner Case's idea of let's have a special meeting and resolve this sooner rather than later.
So really quickly, Ms. Tilton and or maybe Ms. Orden, if we wanted to schedule a special meeting, what's the soonest we could do that? I presume we could do that as a virtual meeting with a, you know, limited or perhaps single agenda item. But what, in terms of noticing and those kinds of things, what's our options on that?
I'd be happy to answer. Ordinarily, if we had it the 13th on Wednesday, the agenda, we tried to get that out on the Wednesday before, but we can get that agenda out the Friday before without any problems. So we could do it that way. And Shalice, unless or Ms. Tilton, if any other thoughts about that.
Yeah, it's just going to be a matter of getting, if you need to have the demographer there, because we are definitely booked pretty solid. But that might not be necessary for us to be there. And with a special, if you were to do it as a special meeting, you would just need 24-hour notice for calling a special meeting. But we typically, for our regular meetings, follow the Brown Act, the 72 hours notice and publishing the agenda. So as long as we're probably safe to go with the 72 hours and
I think,
yeah.
So that would put us at like Tuesday would be probably the earliest. Is that what I'm hearing?
we were thinking you could do it Tuesday. Yes, if a Tuesday, I was just thinking so often we meet on a Wednesday. and
Sure.
That might be in people's calendars more easily.
Yeah, Ms. Anderson, I'm going to impose, do you, any input from the county in terms of just logistics or making sure we don't stumble on our own 2 feet here?
I think that if you go with a virtual meeting, obviously that's going to be much more doable. And that we're structured for. So as long as we're meeting the brownout posting requirements, we'll do what we can to assist.
Okay. Obviously, we would need somebody from the clerk's office.
Yes, that's easy. Gotcha.
Thank you. Okay, so before we try to settle on a date, any other input or feedback on members of the commission at this point? Okay. Ms. Torval.
I would just say at this late date that maybe it would be a possibility just to leave the position vacant.
And as we heard from council, it is potentially an option. I don't know whether there's any other feedback or any other comments on that regard. Mr. Bradley.
I think given our current rate of turnover, I think we should add all the people we can. So I would recommend we proceed with a special meeting to appoint our next commissioner.
Well, all I can say is I don't remember which of our public commenters suggested that this should be the last one. In my mind, the thought of the prayer was his lips to God's ears. So I don't know how many of you brought your calendars, if you could potentially.
Vice Chair Turley has her hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo what Commissioner Bradley said, and I also want to point out that this, I think, is a really important opportunity to more accurately reflect our community's ethnic makeup. So I don't think that we should let this opportunity pass.
Very well, thank you. Okay. So in keeping with our pattern, as Ms. Orden has potentially suggested, perhaps we could, let me start by suggesting a meeting next Wednesday, the 13th at 6 p.m. It would be Jim, we have a number of us are at the Lompoc Rotary doing a presentation on redistricting at 6 p.m. Well, that's not good. Does Tuesday the 12th at 6 p.m. for a very brief virtual meeting? I'm seeing one nodded head. I'm getting a no one here and a, okay.
Mr. Chairman Morris?
Yes.
Forgive me, it's Doug Johnson. The only catch scheduling wise is that, as Ms. Tilton mentioned, you certainly don't need a demographer for this discussion, but I think you will need Dr. Phillips to run the virtual meeting.
Well, all right, Dr. Phillips.
So, and I know his schedule is hideous, so
and I guess I would point, we don't have to do this at 6 p.m., right? We do our meetings at different times, and we, as you see our calendar going forward, we have a meeting at 3, we have a meeting at noon at different times. So Dr. Phillips, could you perhaps find the one hole that's available in your calendar sometime between now and the.
Actually, I could add that I did have a cancellation on October 13th, so I am available and I could handle the meeting.
Okay. Could this 5 o'clock or 5:30 even work?
On the 13th.
On the 13th.
There are a lot of meetings that evening. One is regarding AB 9 and 10, which is
The housing issues.
That's a biggie. And so if we can meet earlier in that day, that's great, or the 14th. But there's probably, and then I think Salud Carvajal's Congressman's having a town hall meeting that night. I mean, it's like everything is happening.
Just a great night.
That evening.
Yeah.
So if we can meet earlier, that would be great. But I I need to be available for both of those meetings.
What?
In the evening.
Suggest a time for me.
A time would be, 3:00. Because I don't think it's going to be a long meeting.
I don't expect it will be.
So 3 PM on the 13th would work.
Anybody blocking that off? Coach? Time to get out of class. What time's practice in? Start, yeah, you start. Is there a hole in there?
What about the 14th?
I'm available on the 14th.
14th is better. 14th? I'm seeing more happy faces here on the 14th. What time do you get out of? Anytime after 5. 5:30? Commissioner Turley?
Good with me.
The option on the table is the 14th at 5:30. Does that work for you?
I got to reschedule game night, but I can do it.
Very good. Okay, Ms. Tilton's nodding her head yes as well. You'll take care of the noticing for us on that? All right, we have a plan. That brings us to item 8. Any future agenda items? Tilton, do you want to just kind of preview what will be on our agenda for the 3rd?
Yes, I need to. I'm
Which
sorry,
is
let
our
me-
next scheduled meeting.
Go ahead and bring it. The schedule I have here for us.
We have a hand up from Vice Chair Turley.
Yeah, thanks.
Turley?
This is a little bit out of order, but I had a quick question for the commission, which is that we would love to get some sandwich boards out in very prominent places all over the county. Places I'm thinking in South County, like Cayo Real and San Nuevo, Montecito Country Mart, that basically just say, draw a map. Santa Barbara County is redistricting. Goleta has done an incredible job of this. And it's pretty pricey to order our own sandwich boards and do all that from the marketing team because they're out of town. But if there's a way for some of us to put our heads together and get sandwich boards locally, if somebody can lend them to us and we can print them out at Kinko's or something like that, I would love to put some marketing budget towards that because I think it's highly effective. So if anyone has thoughts about that, let me know.
Great.
Okay, and if I could have the screen shared, my screen shared.
There we are.
So the November 3rd is going to be a big night. We're looking to get some advice from our legal team regarding Voting Rights Act compliance, presenting the draft maps, and hoping to get this commission to identify 3 to 5 focus maps and then provide any direction on any possible map modifications to some of the maps that were submitted. Following that, we will have more public input. And it's a good idea to create those focus maps because then that directs the public into where they should focus their attention as well. So we'll hear input on those focus maps on November 12th and November 15th. And I just want to point out that these meetings will be hybrid. And so it'll be similar to tonight's format where people can call in and participate in person. We received many public comments that they wanted the options to have both of those available. On November 18th, we will have another meeting and the time will be at noon for that meeting because it will, we want to, as the ordinance suggests that we hold meetings at various times of the day to accommodate various work schedules. So that one will be at 12. Backing up, November 12th is going to be at 3 o'clock.
Very good. And commissioners, I would ask, and particularly related to the 2 meetings that are not in the evening. They are business meetings, so we do need a quorum. So if you could use the attendance grid and give us a heads up if you're not going to be able to attend, we'll need to make sure that we get a quorum at each of those meetings. All right. So this is the time for general public comment. We'll accept comments from members of the public on items we haven't talked about yet. if anybody has a desire to share. So let me just check, Dr. Phillips, are there any hands raised with our friends online?
We have Lee Heller.
Very well.
Chair
Dr.
Morris,
Heller?
Chair Morris and Commissioners, I just want to bring the ending to the evening to a close with a comment. I submitted a written comment expressing concern about some observations that Mr. Johnson made in a news press article. I totally get what it means to be quoted out of context, having been in that situation myself. But the article gave the impression that Mr. Johnson was making a determination about where certain communities of interest should go in redistricting. And I would just really caution staff to be very careful about making statements that lead the community to believe that they're going to be making that decision, because this decision is ultimately up to the community and then to the 11 of you once you are reconstituted. So I know it's tough. Like I said, I've been quoted out of context myself, but when you speak to the media, it's always good to try to say anything in a way that it can't be taken out of context. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other online commenters? No hands raised. Folks in the room, anybody? Going once, going twice. Thank you all for sticking with us this evening. We really appreciate the input and the participation. We'll see everybody again a week from Thursday at 5:30 p.m. online. Have a good evening. We're adjourned.
Night all.